Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only podcast that, like this Cardinals team, isn't going to make it to October. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hey, Nate H.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Hambone, we're here. You're with us. Mostly. Yep. We've got a few programming notes to get through here to start the episode. First of all, quickly, it is Ben who will not be here next week. So it'll be me and a surprise guest host.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Fill it in. And, I think when we were like planning the sort of the summer and the season, everything, I've been thinking about my trip and your trip, knowing they were both right at the end of the season, thinking like, oh man, that's going to be really rough, with the Cardinals in the middle of a playoff race. And, it's going to be a real bummer to miss this time on the show. And, well, I guess if there's anything good coming from this, we don't have to worry about that as much. And secondly, Hambone here, you might have caught it even at the beginning, but how's your throat doing? You want to give us a little taste?
I feel physically fine.
Okay.
But my voice is starting to leave me. And I don't know why that is exactly, other than it started, and it's getting worse. And I have a feeling that over this recording of the show, it's going to get even worse. I have my Advil. I took something.
Okay.
I'm trying to get through it. But yeah, I can, it's that bassy, throaty voice is really coming through, and I have monitors on and I hate it. So I apologize to everyone right now. But I'm here, damn it.
You are, and you're not just here physically impaired. You're also we got another Ben holding a microphone during the entire recording session going on. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are?
I'm at Skamania Lodge in southern Washington State. And when I look out of my resort room window, I see a beautiful river and lake surrounded by lush green trees, a well-manicured lawn.
Wow.
Some old folks kind of pittering back and forth.
Wow.
There's a golden doodle frolicking in the lawn.
Scenic.
And yeah, I'm enjoying nature's bounty,
yeah.
Nathan. As I do, I went on a lovely trail run last night. I'm enjoying the moisture in the air, and the look of the mountains, the feel of what the Pacific Northwest has to offer.
Have you spent much time in the Pacific Northwest?
No, yeah, a few times here or there. I've been to Seattle a couple of times. This was the most I've ever been to Portland, by which I mean in the airport and driving to this resort.
Okay.
But yeah, that's about it.
Nice. You know this, but I don't know if I've ever talked about it on the show. But Portland is probably outside of St. Louis and maybe now Denver, with the amount that I've gone out to hang out with you. Portland is where I've spent like the most time outside of those places, because Molly lived there for 2 years and we dated long distance for a long time.
Your lovely wife.
Yes. And I love Portland, and the entire Pacific Northwest is pretty beautiful. How far from Seattle are you right now?
I'm about 15 minutes from Portland. So hours from Seattle. Yeah.
Nice.
Just on the other side of the river and east, about 40 minutes.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you give me driving directions from Portland to?
I know I'm in the gorge right now. Head towards the gorge.
The gorge.
People keep telling me about the gorge, and I think I'm in the gorge.
And
I'll tell you what, Nate.
What's that?
It's gorgeous here. I think that must be how they got.
That
the name.
must be that you gotta make a T-shirt. I bet you could sell it there.
I don't think that T-shirt exists yet. So yeah, I'm definitely
gorge. More like gorgeous.
Boom.
I could gorge myself
on salmon.
Sure.
I had some smoked salmon last night. It's hidden.
I went to a salmon fishery breeding place.
I think they're called hatcheries.
I went to a salmon hatchery
Farm?
there in the Pacific Northwest. It was interesting and also like just I don't know. It's just like looking into a pool of like thousands of fish. And I was like, oh, this is kind of gross.
Oh, it sounds delicious. I feel like a bear in that
Well,
situation.
I, of course, dove in,
nom, 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 nom.
you know,
Yeah,
ate my fill.
of course.
Dropped a whole fish into my mouth, pulled out just the fish skeleton.
Oh my God. I actually didn't know that was possible. That's amazing. You did that.
I can do that. That's a thing that I can do.
Your little chompers can really wrap around those bones, huh? Just suck the meat off, don't you?
So where are you going next week? You're in Washington now, and you're going to not be with us. You lugged your recording equipment all the way out here, there, which is appreciated. But you're not taking it with you for your next thing, because if I understand, it's a special thing.
It's a special thing. Yeah. So I'm going on our honeymoon. Mary and I have been married for a little while, but we have just kind of been dragging our feet on planning the honeymoon. We're finally going. We're going to St. Lucia.
Well, you wanted to make sure the marriage was going to stick, which is
We had been dating for 10 years, but I still wanted to make sure.
You got to make sure. You need that.
Test the
couple
waters,
more years. You need.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to St. Lucia, which is in the I think is about as far south as you can get in the Caribbean. And we are going to sit on the beach, drink Mai Tais, hang out. We have a couple of we're obnoxious Colorado people, so we're going to do some hiking and stuff like that while we're there. But really, it's just in snorkeling. There's a reef there. I've never snorkeled on a reef. I'm excited to do that and look at the fishies. But yeah, it's just going to be vibing and sun tanning and endless drinks.
Are there mountains there? Are you going to be okay?
Oh, Nate, the pitons. Of course, the pitons they're famous.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but yes, there are 2 mountains. And apparently not a lot of obnoxious Colorado people show up here. So it's dangerous and not traveled very often, but we're going to go for it and see what happens.
Okay. Well, potentially goodbye forever.
Well, there's also jet skis. I've never ridden a jet ski in the ocean. I think if I die, it's the jet ski, right?
Yeah.
I think that's how it happens.
I have done jet skis in the ocean, and it is fun. It's as fun as you are imagining it. If you think of how fun jet skis are. Friend of the show, Brandon, almost killed me and my sister on a jet ski on the ocean.
That sounds so plausible.
Yeah.
I could have guessed that was the outcome.
Yeah. Short, quick story. I've driven a jet ski like my entire life, pretty comfortable with it. I'm driving. I've got my little sister behind me and Brandon behind her. After a little while, Brandon says, I want to give it a shot. I'm like, okay, sure. And we sort of rotate. He gets in the front, sister stays in the middle. I'm in the back, and we're flying down the coastline, having a great time. And him apparently not understanding how physics work, thinks it would be great at full speed to just turn right. Just make a hard right turn while at full speed. And if you don't know what happens when you're on a jet ski when you do that, the jet ski turns, but the person on it does not necessarily, unless maybe everyone's been warned and you grip and you're ready to take the turn, which none of us were, including him. So all 3 of us flew forward at high speed. I landed face first on my sister, and she had a Nate head-sized bruise on her leg.
That's a big ass head.
Yeah.
I'm staring at that noggin right now. That thing, she's lucky to be alive.
Seriously. And it's one of the only times in my life, maybe the only time I can actually think I did the thing, like I literally did the thing, floating in the water, move my toes, move my legs, like move my fingers. It was just such a shocking, sudden impact that I was not quite sure how I had landed from it. You know what I mean? But outside of a huge headache, we were all okay.
Well, you are the way that you are now, which,
I guess maybe it had some sort of long-term impact on, the chemicals or whatever. But But also, it was technically shark-infested waters, so that was fun.
Sick.
That was fun
Great.
and cool
Yeah.
too. I loved that part
That's
about
dope.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
So we all had to swim back to the jet ski, which we had the thing on. We all had life jackets, so it didn't go like super far, but still, just like, well, let's.
Last thing you want to do in that situation is then go find the jet ski that just almost killed you.
Yeah. So Ben, just if you're gonna make a hard right turn. Like we know this podcast is eventually going to make.
Juice those Patreon numbers, baby.
If you're going to make a hard right turn on the jet ski, brace for it or slow down maybe just a little bit.
Okay, that's good. I'm planning on just not turning. I'm just going to go straight until I run out of gas. You don't have to turn in the ocean. Just endless water.
Just at the sun. Aim at the sun and go.
Yeah, I'm going to try to catch the horizon.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Good luck.
Bring me to the horizon.
Set sail.
But yeah, no, so that sounds great. That's good advice. I appreciate that. I'm going to do some hiking. There's some night marketing. I think we're going to, yeah.
Hi, have you heard about Talking About Birds? It's a podcast about the St. Louis Cardinals.
No, Nathan.
I know you've settled into bedtime, but let me tell you a little bit about it.
No, that's not what I meant.
Going to a night market.
Yeah, we scheduled some excursions. But yeah, it's like, it's honeymoon. We're just gonna be cute and vibe and get a sunburn.
Wow, great. Well, I guess,
and I'm not talking to your dumbass or bringing my laptop or any of that shit.
The break.
Yeah.
Shut up. You're gonna be Wednesday. You're gonna be like, "Ooh, I want to talk to Nate." I'm like, "No, it's your honeymoon."
It's. I'm going to request it, but you're going to deny it. No. Okay.
I need a break.
I can't wait for that day.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess we'll hear all about this next week. Can't wait. But for now,
no. Next week I'll be gone. It's the week after that.
Now.
You stupid man.
We'll hear all about it, I guess. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just.
Maybe we won't. Actually, that sounds pretty good. All of a sudden.
All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Cardinals. Okay.
Okay. What do you want to talk about, Nate?
Man, what do you want to talk about? I guess nothing. There's a couple. There's a fun thing that happened. Let's start with the fun thing.
Okay.
I was kind of surprised by this in the moment, but it's something that I think a lot of people have been expecting at some point this year.
Yeah.
The Cardinals called up Thomas Saggese from Memphis. He was acquired at the trade deadline last year, had an absolute crusher of a season last year, especially after being acquired. Was looking like an absolute steal, really, really exciting piece of the trade deadline. This year, he has had a good year, but it's not been to the extremes that he saw last year. I mean, last year, I believe he won some minor league MVP awards, all sorts of accreditations and whatnot. This year was good, but not great, but still clearly, I think, deserving of an MLB call up. And he got in his first game the other night. So how are you feeling about the Saggese call up?
Yeah, I think, it's good that we all finally know how to say his name, Saggese. So that's good timing for him.
That's important.
I think that, we talked about this when the Cardinals acquired him. He is so in the mold of the Matt Carpenter, Brendan Donovan, kind of like what I mean by that is like bat first, kind of not a bad fielder, but not like really a slam dunk at any position. And he has the, scraggly hair, scraggly beard, gritty gutty white guy, the whole he's just the most Cardinals looking shit. Like if you type in Cardinals player into Chat GPT, it'll spit out a Thomas Saggese. So yeah, I guess I'm happy about his acquisition. I'm happy about him being on the team. I'm a little confused of the timing just because it's not like he was necessarily hitting the cover off the ball, and it really goes to his positional flexibility, which it seems like the Cardinals are not super keen on playing Brendan Donovan at shortstop. I'm sure that has something to do with his weird foot ailment that's going on, his foot infection, which kind of sounds like a pirate injury, but it's happening to a Major League Baseball player. So yeah, I don't know. It's fine. I'm curious to see what he looks like at short, how the Cardinals deploy him. Is he going to get regular at bats? He's 22 years old. He's still very much a prospect. So, I kind of think if he's going to be up, he should play. If there's nothing else for him to do at AAA, which I'm not necessarily convinced of that. If you're going to have him up here, play the kid, and I guess see how flexible he is positionally and see where it goes. But like you kind of were alluding to, it wasn't obvious to me based on his performance in AAA. But I guess there's this, we're in the end game where we're seeing what we got.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I guess it makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you think of him, there's multiple versions of him on the team already.
Right.
You already mentioned Brendan Donovan. JJ Weatherholt is in a similar mold. And
a lot higher end of a bat, though, to be clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I think Weatherholt is the ideal version,
Yeah.
or at least, I always like to try to balance our hype of new prospects. So his peak is sort of the ideal version of this type of player.
Right.
Hopefully we get that. We'll see. He still is at the very beginnings of his pro ball career. But so I do think it is like, well, we're heading into the off season. They're not making the playoffs. We need to have a better understanding of who is going to go where going into 2025. What is spring training going to look like? Who's coming in as a major league roster invitee and all of that? And let's take a look at him. There were people who thought he was going to get called up last September because of how awesome his year was. And so I do think it's kind of like he could be doing better at AAA, but also he's kind of proven he seems capable of that next step. So let's just get him up here. And with Gorman being down, who, we'll talk about here in a minute, there does seem to be some opportunity for at bats, at least in the short term. And I suspect we're going to see him start to get starts all over the place. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some Arenado rest days that we wouldn't typically get in a period like this. And he can play some third. He obviously spelled Mason Wynn at short, and then second base feels a little wide open right now. So I suspect he'll get some starts there.
Yeah. Yeah. The one point of confusion I have around this call up, and again, I'm not really like banging the door either way. I think it's fine. But what about Jose Fermin?
Yeah.
Like Jose Fermin, we think can play shortstop. He is a right-handed bat. He has absolutely destroyed AAA this year. He is walking at a good rate. He hasn't had great luck with batted ball so far, but he's only started a handful of games. And it seems unlikely that both of those guys are going to start at the same time. Yeah. And I might have already answered my own question with him just being the most Cardinals guy ever. Maybe they're just prioritizing him. Like Paul DeYoung style, they're just giving him the opportunity because they like the game.
We'll see. We've only seen one game with him so far. So I'll be really curious to see what they sort of view him as, because there obviously is like a peak Suh Jay See. He could be your starting second baseman. He could be your starting third baseman. And theoretically shortstop, but we know that's not going to happen with the Cardinals. So there's also, though, the outcome that he's just the next Fermin. He is the super utility player who we go into 2025 with. And I guess maybe the idea is that Jay See is going to bring in a better plate approach, a more consistent plate approach. I know Fermin has been crushing at the minor leagues, but he seems to have fallen into that camp of where no one believes it, that it'll translate to the major league level, which just happens to these guys sometimes. I've not done enough of a deep dive into his profile at the minor league level to understand where they might be viewing some of these holes, but it certainly seems like that's the case because they've consistently found ways to not play for me.
Yeah. I do think that there's a fun aspect of let's say Suh Jay See is able to kind of clip on and run with this opportunity, or whether it's this year or next year. The idea of having him and Alec Burleson in the same lineup is kind of fun. Just two super duper high contact, high barrel rate type guys, somewhere in the lineup, I think is aesthetically very pleasing. That is, Alec Burleson is fun to watch because he is always doing something.
Yeah. That
is how Suh Jay See's profile fits. It is, high contact, high barrel rate type guy. So I'm excited. we got nothing else to watch.
Yeah.
So let's watch the kids play a little bit.
That's kind of my take on it ultimately, is that like, I'm really hoping that we are seeing at bats from him consistently. Luke and Baker, which we've talked a ton about.
Oh yeah.
Jordan Walker, who his game by game stat line is not necessarily the greatest, but if you actually look at what he's done since returning again, like it's starting to look a lot better. So, I basically just want to see those guys get at bats every day and not worry too much about even a Goldschmidt, even an Arenado, whether they're with the team or not next year. We'll see. But right now, like, let's figure out which of these young guys, or youngish guys in the case of Baker, are actually going to be on the team next year, and which ones should they consider trading in the offseason.
Man, Goldie, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but his last week has just been really, really rough.
Yeah.
And I was convincing myself that, this wasn't going to happen again. Like I think you said this last week, the as you get older, the hot streaks get shorter and the cold streaks get longer.
Yeah.
I really hope that little hot streak was not all he had in him.
Know.
It would really, really make me feel better to see our extremely likely first baseman of next year kind of finish strong. And 1 week does not make a baseball season, but we've seen the past.
Yeah, it's not just 1 week, really. It's most weeks of the season, except for the few weeks leading up to last week when we were all hyped on him.
Kind of a bummer.
Yeah. So in a corresponding move for Suh Jay See, Victor Scott was optioned back to Memphis for the remainder of the minor league season, I would assume. I don't know if there's much more to say about our boy VS2 right now.
Argo.
I still, this year has ultimately been kind of a bummer after the hype of, everything coming in. But he is also uber young, and I'm not ready to throw in the towel on him by any means.
I do not like how the Cardinals publicly talk about these young guys.
Yeah.
This whole thing that's going around now, that he needs to go back down and work on his first step, blah, blah, blah. What the hell were you guys doing with him all season, or the majority of the season in AAA or the past couple of years? Like, the same thing happened to Jordan Walker. Oh, he's a click off. We got to make this adjustment. What the hell are you doing in AAA? Where is the development? And then why are you publicly not trashing? Why are you publicly criticizing these players, saying they need to work on X? You can put down VS2 and nobody would have batted an eye, because he wasn't hitting well. And there's obviously parts of his game that he needs to work on. Not to mention, you have arguably the best center fielder in baseball with Siani, who has come back healthy and doing his thing. Why do they feel the need to talk the way that they end up talking to the media and doing these things? Am I crazy?
No, I agree completely. It just seems unnecessary. I would imagine there's some degree of if you try to view it from their sense, it's a degree of accountability and an attempt at transparency, which, we as fans always want, but there is a balance there. If you're sending down a guy who's crushing or is very hyped, and it makes sense maybe to feel the need to explain why. But you just said, we get it. You don't need to put VS2 under the bus in any way.
Well, the way that I read it, and maybe I'm reading into this too deeply, but the way that I see it is that Mo and Co and whoever didn't realize that his first step was too slow until they saw him on the big league stage, which has me is anybody watching what's happening at AAA?
You know what, Ben? I'm doing it right now. I'm officially calling for the head of Gary LaRoque, head of player development. Okay. I think that guy, he needs to step down. Okay.
Wow. I first off, I can't believe you would say something like that on record. Well, I'm sure we'll be editing this out, so I'll just stop talking right now.
Mm-hmm. What's that? Is there whatever do you mean? Why would that be a strange thing for me to yell?
Oh, should we move into it, Nate?
Yeah. So,
What is he, like 70
yeah,
something years old?
Gary
Not that
LaRoque.
there's really a problem with that, but the game's trending younger, my friends.
So he announced that he's retiring from the head of player development.
Yeah.
He's been in baseball for 50 years, has a whole slew of accomplishments. By all accounts, a good dude, but
Class
yeah,
act.
he's stepping
Pure
down,
class all the way.
and he will be taking a advisory role in the organization next year. Before, I'm assuming, um, riding a jet ski into the sunset. So yeah, I don't have like a ton to say about the thing specifically because he's been in the baseball forever. He
Yeah.
could have been retiring this year even if the Cardinals won a World Series. But it's hard not to sort of connect this to what is likely a whole organizational overhaul over the next few years. We've said a lot on the show that we don't think there's going to be like a White Sox style like firing squad. These guys are going to leave probably on their own terms and probably with all the pomp and circumstance of longtime Cardinal executives typically have. But it's going to happen. Mozeliak's probably done after next year. LaRoque's out now, and who knows who else. Both big names and underlying names that most of us have never even heard of will probably all be going with these people too. But this is this is a big one. I mean, head of player development for the last 12 years, pretty much everything about the Cardinals and who's on the field, like this guy has had a hand on it.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to look, Gary, so he took that position in 2014. He had been with the club prior to that, but he's been in that specific position since then. He is 71 years old now. And I would say that his tenure is mixed at best because while we can talk about Dylan Carlson, we can talk about when is the last time the Cardinals had a starting pitcher come up. You can also talk about players like Tommy Edman and Brendan Donovan, who pretty much came from nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that his strength has weirdly been in developing guys that maybe other teams were not eyeing or had the ability to develop into the type of 2, 3, 4 win players that they've turned into.
Yeah.
But when you look at the higher end guys, the guys that most teams would have a higher likelihood of possibly turning out a superstar or a productive player or a regular at the least, say his tenure there has really not been that great. I wouldn't throw Jordan Walker into that bucket because I think it's too young, but we've talked endlessly about Dylan Carlson. I don't know if you would throw like the Adolis Garcia and the Randy Rosarena into this, but there have been some misses. Lane Thomas has turned into a really nice player. I'm not sure you can blame him for that either, but everybody kind of knows that the storied history of the Cardinals shipping around great players.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the largest things that we have sort of railed about over the last 2 years is player development, right?
Yeah.
We got a really awesome voicemail from a listener, very long, basically talking about that as well, and suggested for a future segment, we sort of go through the history of pitching prospects of the last 10 years of.
Oh, that sounds like a nice depressing segment.
Yeah, so I think it would be interesting to sort of track them and who went where and whatnot. And I think that should be something that we'll do. I don't think for this episode, but it's in that range of topic right now of like, well, we all have been very frustrated with the player development and he's the head of player development. So, it essentially the buck stops somewhere. Right. And so it's hard not to put some of the struggles and failures of the last few years and also 16, 17, 18 as well. He'd only been there for a couple of years, so it's hard to say, but still like by 19, he'd been head of, or 18, he'd been head of player development for 4 years. So, the last 10 years of Cardinal baseball have had some very high peaks in LCS and whatnot, but for the most part, it's not been what you would call like a successful run of Cardinal baseball. And a lot of that struggle gets pointed to player development and exactly what we're talking about, the struggle to generate anything other than some gritty dudes who put up 3 WAR instead of 1, which is
Hell yeah.
super valuable. As you were saying, like I was
Absolutely.
thinking about the term Cardinal Devil Magic has been around forever, right? And it has taken different shapes and forms. And for a long time, Cardinal Devil Magic was ascribed to Dave Duncan and his ability to take mediocre aging pitchers and make them awesome for a short while. And now Cardinal Devil Magic is the Matt Adams hitting a 3-run bomb off of Clayton Kershaw in the playoffs, or a Matt Carpenter, or any of these guys that kind of came out of nowhere. And that's great. It is a real value. I mean, turning nothing into something is awesome. And they're missing the turning something into something great, so I guess it's a mixed legacy. I think he does leave, in a not on a high note, but I don't think he leaves like in disgrace or anything like that. And I am excited and interested to see who comes next for this thing.
You cannot say that he's leaving in disgrace, which is why I think, like you phrased it, mixed bag is the best way to say it. But because if you look at the Cardinals major league team right now, it's almost all homegrown players.
Yeah.
Now,
well, kind of, all the stars are
Mason Wynn, Burleson, Donovan, Nootbaar, Walker, Pages, Siani is not, Ivan Herrera, Lucan Baker, Matt Carpenter, technically, although he obviously is on the other side of the aging curve. Ryan Helsley. I mean, all of those guys, are he is somewhat responsible for their development. That being said, the Cardinals are a 500 team this year. They're going to miss the playoffs. So
for the second year in a row.
It's good and it's bad. I believe in a lot of those guys. But a lot of those guys are underperforming right now.
And there's not a single player, single starting member of the starting rotation other than I guess Palante, who is homegrown, and the 2025 rotation projects to be empty right now, most generally. So,
and it's like, I feel like we got really lucky with Mason Wynn. And I hope that luck continues. But after Mason Wynn, it's like, who's the best player of that group?
Burleson, or
Newt?
Yeah. Hopefully, we all still have high hopes for Nootbaar. But
they're all kind of in this like mushy middle, 2 WAR-y type thing. It's hard to get overly excited, even though they're my boys and I love my boys and I do it for the boys. But
well, we're always doing it for the boys.
But we are where we are right now. We have I think I saw the playoff odds were 0.01%, which thanks for tossing us that,
Anything can happen, man. Chip in a chair, they say. You got a shot.
Hell
you just need to rip off another 17-game win streak, which is just about how many games are left. So we just kind of need to win out.
Just win out, guys.
Just win out. All right, so kind of jump the outline here a little bit. There's another move that
you had to do your little bit, Nate. You always had to.
Well, then I didn't want people to think that I actually thought that, and it wasn't a bit. So, okay. So the Cardinals reinforcements. It's like making a trade here in September. Hambone reinforcements are on their way. Lance Lynn has been activated, and will start today.
Yeah.
Against the Reds, a team that I'm terrified of him to start against because they hit home runs.
Yeah. I think it's really nice that Lance Lynn gets to end his Cardinals career healthy. That's really all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, we all love Lance Lynn, and it was a lot of fun having him on the team this year as a personality, as a pitching, as a pitching.
Yep.
It went about exactly as expected, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we were all kind of talking about like there could be an outcome where this guy leads the club in strikeouts and those home runs from last year weren't a real thing. And, he's coming back to a pitcher's ballpark and the Lennings are over. But that
was always like 90th percentile outcome, right?
Yeah.
And that happens obviously sometimes, but Well, it didn't this year. So he could have been a lot worse. He could have been a lot worse. But just
it's kind of funny to me that he's even coming back. I mean, it must be just a pride thing. He doesn't want to end the season on the IL because he was talking about in an interview that his knee still isn't 100%. Obviously, he's a big boy. It doesn't seem like a fun way to spend the remainder of your year, but he's doing it.
I imagine he does not want to retire. And I suspect that he is doing this to try to end the season on a healthy, positive note, and that him and his agent can go and show like normal off season, everything ready to go 2025. It'll be better next year. I promise, sort of thing.
Yeah. The Cardinals suck. So let me get on your good team and I'll be a lot better. I swear.
I went from the White Sox to the Cardinals. Well, the Dodgers in between, but it was not very long there. And now the Cardinals, and put me in, coach, put me on a winner. You'll see what I can do. I drive a big pink Bronco.
I will. Just to say it one more time, I do love Lance Lynn. I love his post game. I just love everything about him. He's the best. But it's just Kyle Gibson also seems like a great human being. Not a good pitcher right now.
Lance Lynn,
Miles Mikolas,
Cardinal Hall of Fame.
Maybe
he's pretty far up there on a bunch of strikeout numbers and innings pitched and wins and stuff like that.
Yeah,
he could.
Yeah, I'm looking at his WAR total. I'm looking at how many innings he has. That one has shocked me. He's got a championship.
Big personality guy. Everyone loves him. Yeah. I would never have said that before this year, and not like this year really added to his numbers, but I think it's kind of brought his legacy back in mind for Cardinal fans. And I don't know. I could see it. Matt Morris is in the Cardinal Hall of Fame. I think there's maybe some similarities there as far as like tenure and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, Lance Lynn has way more added value than Matt Morris. So if it's going by that, yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah. Are you a large or small hall guy when it comes to the Cardinal Hall of Fame?
Don't care. Let's bring the guys out. Let's celebrate them. Let's have fun with it. I do not hold that precious at all.
Yeah. I think you need to have a consistent contingency of guys who just got out of the league. So the Cardinal Hall of Fame thing isn't just sad most of the time as you watch all these old dudes struggle to get in and out of their Cadillacs.
Yeah, I do think like if I was in charge, I would maybe do the Cardinals Hall of Fame every other year or something like that, because I do think we're probably diluting the product a little bit. But who cares?
Yeah.
Celebrate these guys.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. I agree.
Dave Duncan got to come out and get cheered very likely one last time by Cardinal Nation. And I think that's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Man, he looked old.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that guy, no more clear. I mean, he's probably borderline real Hall of Fame from a coach perspective,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, let's talk about just a few more topics, Cardinal related topics. You kind of started going into it, and I cut you off, but I guess let's talk about Miles Mikolas. It's rough out there, man.
Yeah.
Lizard King.
I guess I'd never told Mary that story, but I told Mary how we got the name Lizard King. And she found that absolutely disgusting.
Yeah. It's a story that a lot of us just like, oh, ha, ha, ha. But whenever you tell someone that is like, I don't know, I guess a sane person, because I've said that to other, and it's almost universally like, oh, fuck, gross, and we're like, ha, 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 Lizard King. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely horrible.
For the lulz. Yeah. He's obviously a weird guy. I like Miles.
Sure.
I want good things to happen to Miles because that means that good things are happening to the Cardinals. I think I was pretty pro the extension when it went down. I thought that he would age better than he did. Mm-hmm. I also was pretty convinced that I thought that his profile made a lot of sense of him going to one of the spin shops over the offseason, and I thought he could find more strikeout stuff. And I was thinking that because he already had a good slider, he's a big, strong man. He throws the ball pretty hard. I think people, like, because of the style of pitching, forget that he can sit around 95, 96 on some days. And I just thought it was going to age differently than it did. But we're now sitting here towards the end of the 2024 season. He has another year remaining on his contract. He has a well over 5 ERA. And what's next? What do you do with Miles?
Yeah.
He feels kind of done to me.
He does to me as well. And I have a hard time not just saying one way or another, he can't be in the rotation next year.
But him in the bullpen doesn't make any sense either, unless he can completely, there are obviously stories of guys going to the bullpen and finding that extra gear and finding that strikeout stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe he can find that. I don't know.
The thing that is interesting about Mikolas is we're always surprised by his surface stats and how they correlate into Fangraphs WAR. Last year it felt like a pretty bad year. I mean, in a lot of ways it was, a near 5 ERA, a near 5 XFIP, but still he put up 3.1 F4, which is an above average Major League Baseball pitcher. And this year,
pitcher on the team,
despite everything, he's probably going to end around 2, which puts him at league average, which, you wish you weren't paying $20 million or whatever it is for league average. But when you just look at the results end of the year, he's 2 WAR. And you're like, well, obviously that could have been way worse. And I guess it just speaks to what the value of just raw volume is, because he's not going to hit 200 innings this year, but he's hit it 2 years in a row before this. And he continues to be like a net positive player. And if he has a couple good starts, he could end up over 2, so.
Yeah. And he still doesn't walk people, which is where I think a lot, not only the bulk innings, but I think that's where a lot of the value also comes from, is he's not, he would rather give up a 110-mile-an-hour line drive than walk a guy, which is probably part of the problem.
Yeah.
When you're doing something on the extreme level of the rest of the league, sometimes that's good, and sometimes, there's a reason other people keep a little bit higher walks. It's almost never good to walk somebody, but if you were maybe a little less in the zone, you might have a little more success. Results. And I think Miles Mikolas is an argument for that.
Well, there's something interesting there too, because if you look at his underlying numbers, this would maybe be an argument for why I guess you just run it back one more time. And
I knew I purposely left that out of the outline. I saw that the FIP, the underlying numbers look a lot better.
They do
even look better than they did last year.
They're better than they've been since 2021, I guess. Like he has a 4.09 XFIP and a 5.55 ERA.
If you're that type of person, yes, you could absolutely argue that this was a bounce back year for Miles Mikolas. But watching it, Nathan,
I know. Well, there's there's holes in these metrics, right? I was reading a thing the other day too about how like StatCast doesn't do a good job of evaluating and serving as like a predictive model for lift and pull hitters who like their whole thing is lift and pull, which is a fair amount of guys. But if you're like an extreme lift and pull hitter,
Isaac Paredes, the advanced stats hate Isaac Paredes.
He was that, so he was name checked in the thing I was reading.
Yeah.
And so there are holes in these metrics, and this could be one of those cases where XFIP is just looking at his walk rate and saying, well, with a walk rate that low, you are expected to have these sorts of outcomes. But when, like you said, if it's instead of a walk, you're leaving something soft inside the zone and they're crushing it, and that's the reason you're not walking people. Well, I don't know enough about the underlying makeup of all of these metrics, but you could see how there would be some gaps there. So Ultimately, I think my preferred thing would be to trade Mikolas for anything. You're probably eating the vast majority of the contract there.
He should come on down to Denver.
Oh God. Yeah, maybe we can trade him for like Nolan Jones or
Rymack.
Yeah, is Brenton Doyle available for Miles Mikolas?
That would not shock me.
So I think I would prefer that Mikolas be pitching for another team next year. But I think we all have to steel our hearts for the fact that it's hard to imagine any team acquiring him. It's probably you're trading him and one of your better prospects for something else as half a salary dump, or you're just trading him for, and you're eating most of the contract, which Cardinals don't do that much. I'd have to think about it a little bit to think of like a salary dump contract like that, or inverse where they eat the salary.
It is hard to imagine the Cardinals being effective with him in the starting rotation next year. That spot could go to almost anyone else. Michael McGreevy is on fire right now in AAA.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like what are we doing giving that spot to him over the multitude of guys that we think could be at least him? Not a huge bar to clear.
I feel very confident that one of those or multiple of those rotation pieces in the minors can put up a 2-WAR season.
Yeah. Or we just say, okay, we're totally turning the page, and Tink Hence makes the rotation out of spring. Quinn Matthews makes the rotation out of spring. You've got Sonny Gray. You say Palante, you know what? You've been doing it. It's enough. He's in there. And then, a combo of McGreevy, Graceffo, Liberatore, maybe,
Matz will get 5 starts next year.
Yeah, Matz will be there, and just say we're going full young, except for our ace, Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. Down at the minors, Nolan Gorman is starting to hit again. So I'm not ready to give up. My Gormania, while it has been treated, it's ready for a flare-up.
Yeah, I think anybody who's ready to give up on Nolan Gorman is insane. Mm-hmm. So I hope people aren't taking that lane yet. But yeah, it's nice to see. He's got 6 home runs in not that many games, a 111 WRC plus. I mean, he screamed to me just like mental reset. Yeah. He's not that bad. He's never been that bad. It felt like he was underwater, and I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back up before the season's over, maybe even very soon, gets some at-bats, hits a couple of doinks. It's nice to see.
I would love.
Man, it was rough for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the right move.
Yeah. For sure.
So, but this happens, and it's unfortunately a huge step back in a career that only seemed to be blossoming. But he also very young, and for at least a few months, a couple times over the last 2 years, has looked like one of the best power hitting players in the game, not just second base. Yeah. He was, for a large part of the season, on pace for over 40 bombs before everything just sort of collapsed.
We talked probably this year, definitely last year, about the Schwarber potential outcome for Nolan Gorman. I still think that that's in the cards, and maybe even a little bit better of a player just because he can play a little bit of defense. But I'm not giving up on him at all, and I think the power is real. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, how old is he? 23, 24?
Yeah, I think he's 23.
Yeah. So, I mean, incredibly young. Most people still haven't made their major league debut at that point, and
he's 24. He's 24. I lied to you. Sorry.
Okay. Even still, I mean, obviously now that's 24, 25, 26. You're starting to get into like peak. They should be, if they're going to do well at the major league level, they're probably starting to do well around there. But again, most people are making their MLB debut around 24 years old, if not older.
Yeah.
One other note you threw in here that I'd been wanting to talk about too, Chase Davis. He was the first round pick for the Cardinals the year before. We were all uber hyped on Chase Davis, yoked out of his mind. What was it? Carlos Gonzalez, a lot of comps to his swing.
Very cargo,
Who you and I were both huge fans of Cargo, and not just the Denver connection. I don't feel like his legacy has really lasted. You don't really hear much about Cargo, at least maybe you do, being in Denver with Rockies, but like I don't feel like I've heard much about him for a while now.
It's his peak wasn't that long, but when I think there was a point when he was one of the best corner outfielders in baseball. It just was only over 4 years or so. And I think the Coors Field thing probably hurts his legacy, but I view him as an excellent player, a fun player to watch. I mean, he's fast, his best left-handed swing I can remember, good power, great glove. And he's the Denver connection is just extra fun.
Yeah. So Chase Davis has been comp to him, which is a very fun comp. But unfortunately, Chase Davis made his pro debut and it went about as bad as it possibly can. And he just completely fell off like every prospect ranking, everything. Just he was striking out like 48% of the time or something horrible.
It was 34 games in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
People are insane for ripping him apart. He had already played a full college season, never played that many games. He comes into 2024. They assign him to low A, and he hits pretty well. He's walking at a great rate. He's got a 111 WRC plus. They promote him to high A, and he starts dominating. Over 30 games, he has a walk rate over 10%. He's hitting over 300. Has a 144 WRC plus. Then very recently, the Cardinals promoted him double A. He's only had a handful of games there so far, but he's continuing to dominate. He's walking more than he's striking out. He's hitting well over 300. It's a very, very short sample size right now, but I think Chase Davis is catching up to big league baseball, making adjustments, and I think that he's going to be back on prospect list pretty soon.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Obviously, I think that now. So double A, he is now back at an age appropriate league.
Right.
He was where he has been crushing. You would consider him old for the level. And, with his monster body type, like he was just going to crush people who are multiple years younger than him. Now he is where he kind of should be with his age. So this will be the real test. Is this surge a real breakout, a real return to what people wanted him to be? Or is it just he was beating up on people younger than him and he's a muscle bound monster? We'll see. Obviously I'm hopeful. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, it's only 3 games. But in those 3 games, he has a 243 WRC plus. So starting off great, there was a similar conversation about Quinn Matthews earlier this year, where it's like, okay, we need to see him do it at double A before we can start to say, this is real. He's back. Or for Quinn Matthews, it was, he's here. This is real.
Yeah.
For Chase Davis, it's okay. He's doing what we thought he was going to do. He's back contributing at the level he's supposed to be. So we'll find out. But I mean, it certainly makes things interesting if he is good again, and if he is starting to get anywhere near the output that people were starting to put on him when he got drafted.
Yeah, I mean, there should be no pressure on him right now. He's still in his first real year of big league ball. He had a great college career.
Yeah,
I have a lot of faith in him, so I'm going to exercise patience and hopefully he helps the Cardinals, 2026.
Yeah. But again, for some comparison, so he's 22. So everything we talk about with like Mason Wynn, Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, they're all 22 to 24 years old. Chase Davis, first round pick, super hype prospect at one point. He's their same age essentially.
Yeah.
And we're like, I hope he can stick at double A, so you gotta have that context when you talk about all of these guys, these young Cardinals that we're all so hyped about.
Yeah, they don't need to be good right away. It would be nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice if the Cardinals could maybe get their players a little more ready for big league baseball, like some other teams seem to have a little more success at. But Garrett LaRoque's dead, and we're moving on from that, so I don't need to bring it up anymore.
R.I.P. to a real one. All right. Anything else, Cardinal specific, you want to talk about?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to talk at all right now. Can you hear it in my voice?
It's staying at a balanced, horrible.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay. Well, we've got a couple series to talk about and a little bit of league news and other things. But before we do, we want to remind our listeners that this show is listener supported by people just like you. And also people like Nathan and Charles, two of our newest patrons. Thank you guys both so much for joining. We do truly appreciate it. And if you're out there thinking you love this show, you appreciate the time that goes into it, good or bad, as far as the season goes, and good or bad, I guess, as far as that episodes go. If you want to support the time and effort, we got Hambone, and he could be out there petting that golden doodle, pushing over those old people, as I know he loves to do.
There's some kids out there playing football right now, and I'm just thinking I would dominate them.
The cookie, Ben.
Take the cookie.
So you could consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Patrons of any level get access to our private Discord server. It's the Birds Gourd. We're having a good time in there. Hambone, the fantasy season. We're in the playoffs. The last week of the season, I took the last playoff spot from you. You suck.
Fantasy baseball is good. I like it. It's fun to play.
Well, we have to give a shout out to the Beefy Boys, who 2 years in a row have ended the season with the best record in the league. So may this be a small beacon of light in their otherwise horrible existence.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
They know who they are.
Yeah.
And they're going down. I'm in the playoffs again. I won last year. I'm in a tough matchup this week, but I'm coming for the championship again. Beefy Boys and the rest, you're done. If you want to maybe participate in that next year, or just join the Discord and the Birds Gourd, and hang out with us and other listeners, we'd love to have you. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you want to support the show in other ways, you could consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform, or tell your friends. That's how podcasts spread. Tell your friends. We really appreciate it. The season is not going the way we want to, but there's obviously still a lot to talk about, and maybe we can help you and your friends still have some fun as the season comes to an end. Hambo, if people want to find us otherwise, where can they find us online?
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds. You can follow us on TikTok, where our little faces are over there. If you prefer to listen to podcasts on Spotify or YouTube, we are also there. You can email us questions or anything at all to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And as always, you can call us and leave a voicemail, or text us at 848-48-BIRDS. That is 848-482-4737.
Yeah, you can be like the listener who called us this week and left a really cool voicemail, or you can just call and leave a roast, or whatever you want. We're here.
Or just roast us. Yeah. And whatever you got. Yeah, light us up. We deserve it.
Yep. All right, a couple series coming up. One of our favorite mini segments, talking about other birds. We've got the Toronto Blue Jays. The Cardinals are going there. Another team that just keeps disappointing, despite some, every year it's like they're going to do it this year. They got Vlad Guerrero. They've got Bo Bichette. Vlad Guerrero. If it weren't for Juan Soto and Aaron Judge and guys like that, Guerrero would be kind of having, center of the MVP conversation again. But he's not, because of Aaron Judge. But they're a good team. but they have several issues like the Cardinals that have prevented them from really having a great season this year.
Yeah, they're funny. Bo Bichette being, having the season that he's had, injured and ineffectiveness. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I really like Bo Bichette. I am shocked that he is doing what he's doing. But they've had some really nice performances from guys who kind of came out of nowhere. I'm speaking specifically of Spencer Horowitz, who's been a huge beacon of power for them. Dalton Varsho kind of had a bounce back here. He might be the best defender in baseball. And then Vladdy fully came back. He, over the past, 2.5 months, 3 months, he's been dominating, which, I think he'll continue to do. Nate, I was thinking about this the other day. What if the Cardinals made a push to go get Vladdy?
Yeah.
And then just re-sign him forever. Why not?
Yeah. Well, why not? Just go do it.
Well, I'm saying the Blue Jays can start their rebuild in earnest, which I think that they need to do because this is just not working for them. The Cardinals could use a first baseman for the next decade. Push it in, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I've thought about that in a slightly different way in that I think it was Bill DeWitt when they traded for Nolan Arenado, they made a big deal about how the Cardinals have had a concurrent string of Hall of Fame players going on for, 30 something years, right? I can't think of where the gap starts. But they've had a Hall of Fame player on the team for a long time. And it seems to be something that they have a little bit of pride in. And the reality is Arenado, I still think is Hall of Fame, and Paul Goldschmidt, I think will be, but he might not be with the team next year. Arenado, 3 more years in the contract, but there's also a lot of discussion of him being shipped out at some point. So they kind of do need to start thinking about, like, if they want to keep that run going, who's filling those shoes, Not that really matters that much, but it's always stood out to me that, like, it seemed like that was something that the Cardinals actually they almost want it just for the name value of having a Hall of Fame player on your team, which I get, like, from a marketing, all that stuff. I get why you would want that for your brand.
I don't think it's going to happen, but can you imagine? I'm sure the haul would be big, but it's only for 1 year, and then you re-sign to get Vladdy through years 26 through 36.
Yeah, it'd be incredible.
That would be a lot of fun.
I
think the Blue Jays need to seriously consider hitting the reset button.
So there were rumors starting to circulate at this trade deadline that the Blue Jays were considering offering Vlad. It's the smart.
I think the Cardinals need to go blow them out of the water. They need to make them make the deal.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know where that deal starts at. But it might be Jordan Walker. And honestly, that wouldn't even be right now. That wouldn't even be it'd be like Jordan Walker plus Quinn Matthews plus, maybe Suh Jay See plus Crooks plus, you just go through your top 10
and I'm saying do it. They should do
plus, it. Yeah. If you can sign him, you kind of trade whoever. Like, it doesn't really matter if you can get Vlad. It would be a pretty perfect fit.
And I think Cardinal Nation would love him so much. It'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
But that is extremely unlikely. But I do think the Cardinals should do it.
No, it's going to be like the Padres are going to trade again, like their entire farm system for him, and then they'll do it again the next year. Trade him at the midseason for a new haul, and then they'll just rinse their feet. But anyway, they have some pretty good pitching when it works. Kevin Gossman has had kind of a down year, but he's still good. So it should be a fun series. I like the Blue Jays.
Yeah, they're fun. We don't get to see them often. It's fun to go to Canada.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then after that, the Pirates come to St. Louis. Here we go again. We've talked at this point in the season, we've talked about them so much. Just say again, O'Neal Cruz seems to have taken the next step. He's been crushing. And then kind of just depends on what pitchers you get from them. Obviously, if you get a Skeens or a Jones, you're going to have a hard time. Have you read much about their other pitching prospect, Bubba Chandler?
I have. Yeah, he's been getting a lot of good press recently.
Yes. Like, damn it, come on. They're looking like, at least pitching wise and maybe offensively, they're looking like, again, they're right around the corner from some real heat.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm very curious because there were some people saying that Skeens' last start might be his last start of the year. He is currently scheduled to face the Cardinals. But it would make a lot of sense for the Pirates to shut him down for the remainder of the year to kind of build up his arm for next year. But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of torn on, it's like, I as just like I don't know. I guess I just want him to get the start because I want to see Skeens pitch, and I don't really want the Cardinals to win a ton of games anymore at this point.
Right.
So I guess it kind of serves both purposes.
And I mean, if I'm Skeens probably wanting to get that rookie of the year, like he's still in contention for that. Could be the last handful of starts that, cement it or take it away from him.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's arguing for it, but the Pirates are going to do, what's best for the club.
Yeah. And it would be probably pretty smart for them to say, like, what are we getting out of another 5-6 innings from him?
Yeah.
They don't want to win games either.
No, and it's felt like that forever. Yeah, so yeah, it's right in line.
Yep. All right, so that's the series coming up. We'll see how they go. At this point, I guess the big question is are the Cardinals going to end above or below 500? Doesn't really matter. It's going to probably be plus or minus a few games in either direction. But there is something like symbolic, I think, about them being over or below 500.
I'm sure that Mo and his group really want the team at even one game, 500 or better.
Yeah.
And I think that while a lot of the moves they've done are pointed towards the future, I still think that they want to win baseball games right now.
I think you're probably right. So, all right, let's go in and do a little bit of league news.
Yeah, just a couple of things I want to talk about. The Rangers are set to activate Jacob deGrom, the best pitcher in baseball when healthy, on Friday. So that's really exciting. Obviously, the Rangers do not have really playoff aspirations. That's all over this year. But him being healthy, effective in Major League Baseball, and getting ready for next year, I think is very exciting. That rotation should have Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, even though they're both made of glass and getting pretty old at this point, at the top. And I expect that team to kind of run it back next year and be really good again. But I just love Jacob deGrom. When he's healthy, he's my favorite pitcher to watch. Yeah. The fact that he can live with two pitches on the outside of the zone or on the same side of the plate all day and strike out and dominate the best hitters in the world. I don't know if we've ever seen a pitcher as dominant as him when he's healthy. So just happy. Yeah. I love watching him pitch. He's the best.
Yeah, the thing with deGrom compared to Scherzer, like Scherzer is old and it's sort of showing in his output too, right? Like you can still get a Scherzer gem, but I think he's definitely in like pure sort of into career decline mode.
Yeah.
Really working on that Adam Wainwright. I'm going to fool you through this game, sort of thing. But deGrom seems to have taken no performance step backs despite all the injuries. When he is out there, he's incredible. So
he's the man.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why the Rangers have held on to him too. They're just like, we've got him. Like, I mean, I know it's not like they really could have traded him this year or anything, but still, like, you can see why they want him back out there. They want to know what they got next year. I'm sure they're really hoping to pencil in deGrom as a consistent part of the rotation next year.
And I hope so too. Just like I said, baseball's better when he's healthy and playing. Yeah. So yeah. The last thing I want to talk about, the Giants extended Matt Chapman, one of the Boris Four, who kind of got screwed this offseason, to a 6-year deal worth $151 million. Great for Matt Chapman. I think he's a great player. He's having a great year. It's kind of funny, you look back at his seasons. He had one bad season, but he's arguably the best third baseman in baseball. He hits the shit out of the ball consistently. And he's, putting up offensive production in a really hard ballpark to do that in. So I say good for him. The Giants, I don't know about the Giants and their future prospects, but they've obviously been wanting to spend money for the past couple of years. They get to spend some of that money. I think it's kind of a fun deal.
Yeah, when you look at his career, he obviously 2018 6.4 WAR, kind of his coming out, like huge year. And then it's kind of declined since then. So you can kind of see why there were people who were afraid to take a risk on him. 3.7 F4 in 21, 3.9 in 22, and then 3 last year. These are all positive seasons. These are all,
Right.
but now he's going to surpass 5 on the season, and it seems like the Giants are banking on him aging gracefully. I mean, he's already 31, so they just bought out, him into his mid late 30s. We'll see how this contract ultimately works out. But yeah, I mean, I think you could do a lot worse than Matt Chapman.
Yeah, he's a StatCast darling, and I personally like betting on that guy. But we'll see.
Yeah, I wonder if he's ever going to hit 30 plus bombs again.
Yeah.
But his value is more than just that. But for a little while, it's like he's going to hit 30 bombs and be an incredible third baseman. But even 20 to 25 with the rest of his profile is pretty good.
Yeah. It's hard to be really good at everything, turns out.
I should know.
Oh, my goodness.
All right.
That's all I got for league news this week.
We're going to wrap this up. I'm going to return to a game I debuted a few months ago that was kind of fun. Thought we'd try it again. Hambone, it's called You're Out.
I don't like it.
I'm going to give you a list of things, and you have to pick one of them to be stricken forever. It's gone.
Okay. All right.
Here we go. Hot dog, bratwurst.
Oh, yeah.
Italian sausage,
Ooh.
veggie dog.
Oh, what the?
One of them has to go.
Yeah, that's really easy. I love my vegetarian wife to death. We eat a lot of veggie dogs. I'm pretty good at cooking veggie dogs at this point. I'll slice them up and put them on a pizza, and that works really well. But it's the dumbest question you've ever answered me. Yeah, veggie dog has to go.
So when I was making this, I almost just cut that out because I know you, but I thought, well, will his loyalty to his wife, who he's about to go on his honeymoon with, will that overtake his love of an Italian sausage? And nope.
Sorry, babe.
Nope.
Yep.
You love hot dogs, bratwurst, and Italian sausages all more than your wife's enjoyment of a meal.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Pretty obvious. Pretty easy. Okay.
Yeah. I'm comfortable saying that. I'm comfortable her knowing that. We're on the same page here.
All right. This list is like, I'm thinking sort of in ballpark, but I guess you could expand it beyond that. Beer, soda, water, lemonade.
Oh,
one must go.
Yeah. So obviously beer and water, top tier. I need my beer and my water. Soda, I love a Coke.
Yeah.
It's a special treat. I love getting a Coke. I was a lot more into lemonade when I was younger. But I've kind of grown out of it. That being said, sometimes when it's hot, a lemonade be hitting.
Dude.
Especially at Coors Field, they just throw a half a lemon in there, and that
I've been on like a little bit of a lemonade renaissance lately.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
It's good. It's super cool, first of all. I agree.
And I love that for you, and I love that for America.
Thank you.
But I do think if it came down to it, if you put a Coca-Cola in front of me or a lemonade, I think I'd take the Coca-Cola 9 times out of 10. So I'm gonna kick the lemonade.
I think you're probably right. I also I keep in the fridge, the mini cans of Coke.
Oh yeah,
that I have found it allows me to have it and also find the balance that I try to find in how I consume those sorts of things.
I pretty much stay away from Coke all of the time, and then if I'm on vacation and I see a glass bottle Coke, I'll order it. That's kind of my way to do that.
On vacation, doing Coke, hell yeah! All right.
Num.
I was thinking of this under as like ballpark sweet treats. Okay.
Ooh,
ice cream, cotton candy, Cracker Jacks or fruit-based treats. So I've seen
Okay.
like those, see like chocolate covered strawberries or
Oh, yeah,
something,
yeah.
you know, like that whole sort of bucket of like, I'm getting
I'll
a
tell you
fruit.
what, the chocolate covered strawberry, I don't know where they get these strawberries at Coors Field, but some of the best strawberries I've ever had. It is unbelievable. They must be packed with sugar, GMOs, or there's
Just packed
something
with
going on.
GMOs.
They're so good.
That
Though.
was what inspired me on this one. I was thinking about them
Yeah.
walking around with those chocolate covered strawberries at Coors Field.
It's a very phallic look as they kind of wiggle around in their little things. Okay, yeah. So then
Gonna
you
walk
said
on by that one. Ice cream, cotton candy, Cracker Jacks, and fruit-based treats.
This might be a hot take. I'm not sure, but I think cotton candy's stupid. Cotton candy isn't good.
Wow.
I don't like eating it. It feels like there's hair in my mouth, and there's like the flavor doesn't come through. It's just it's for babies, and I'm not a baby, Nate. So get cotton candy out of here.
I think you're a fool.
Do you know that? Wait. Well, first off, do you know that video of the raccoon who found cotton candy in the woods and he's trying to clean it in the water, and every time he goes to clean it, it just disappears because obviously, it's so sad.
Oh, poor guy.
He keeps trying to clean it, it keeps disappearing, and he's not understanding what's happening.
That's well, that's adorable. And also
It is.
Sounds like your nightmare. How many times do you wake up in the middle of the night because you're like you dreamt you dropped your milkshake or whatever?
3 times a night. But yeah, cotton candy's bad. It's for babies, and I'm a big strong man, so I don't eat that shit. Yeah.
You could probably put someone in the hospital, you know. Big tough guy. Yeah, I don't agree. I think cotton candy is tasty. I do think that it is the experience of eating it. Everything except for the part where you're actually eating it is horrible. Like it only ends gross and disgusting, and like you have to be so delicate to make sure that you don't end up with this like torch of horrible goo, you know.
Yes.
So that I agree, but I think the actual experience of like putting cotton candy in your mouth is fun. It's like a little tasty little cloud.
I'd rather only eat Cracker Jacks for the rest of my life than eat any cotton candy.
See, Cracker Jacks I almost didn't even put on there because that feels like such a non-thing to me. I mean, I know it's in the song, but I don't think I've ever wanted a Cracker Jack.
Oh, I think they're fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're a fool. Moving on.
Cool.
All right. The young crew. We're doing real baseball ones. Mason Wynn, Alec Burleson, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman. One must go.
One must go. I love them all like they're my own little baby children. You're asking me to do something that no parent ever wants to do, but obviously for the sake of this game, I must. Damn. I mean, I hate to do this because honestly, he's one of my favorites, but I'm just trying to think of the future of the team and who is the most replaceable. It's probably Burley, just because he has no defensive versatility. The other guys do. The other guys' tools pop off the page a little bit more. You could probably find another Burley somewhere. I love him to death, but he's got to be the one to go.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thought as far as upside goes. And we both love Alec Burleson, but there's some holes there. And, you know, you could see, depending on how the league adjusts, you know, he could go in a couple different directions. He has started to walk a little bit more, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm pretty hyped on the future of Burleson, but I get what you were saying.
I'd rather watch his at-bats than anyone else's on the list, to be clear. It's just like playing this game.
A bad body outfielder, you know, who hits the ball well.
Yeah.
Like, I get what you're saying.
Those exist.
Yeah. I thought the other argument would be Gorman just because of the 4, he's the one in the minor leagues and like has the lowest floor probably. But
I love 40 plus home runs from second place. I'm betting the farm on that.
Yeah, I agree. All right. This one, there's only 3, but I wanted to keep it as challenging as possible. JJ Weatherholt, Quinn Matthews, Tink Hens.
Ooh. Damn. Because of the Cardinals configuration, their strengths and weaknesses, I'm going to have to get rid of JJ. And I think JJ is going to be great. but oh my God, do we need pitching? Yeah. I know that the offense has been the problem this year. I don't think that is going to continue to be the case. I think that we have bats in the organization. I don't know how we recover from getting rid of either Tink Hintz or Quinn Matthews right now.
Yeah,
it would be devastating. So I'm gonna kick JJ to the curb.
I think it makes sense. I think you could maybe make an argument for Tink Hintz only because of his projectability of his size. He's not a big guy, and that is part of the reason why you don't see him as top pitching prospect. I think if he was 6'2" and had the exact same results, he'd be the number one pitching prospect in baseball right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But there's a reason why he's not, and it's right. That. And so you could maybe just roll the dice and say he has the lowest floor of all these guys. But I think team configuration, you're probably right.
Yeah.
All right. I got a real juicy one for you here. Okay. Bases, balls, bats, or gloves?
Bases, ball, bats, gloves. Okay, you obviously could not play baseball without the baseball. So that's staying around. You couldn't play without the bat because you'd just be breaking your arm or hand every time somebody throws the ball. You could play baseball without the glove. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
It's going to be really, really hard. And then the last one was bases.
Yeah.
I mean, I played a ton of baseball growing up without bases. You just say that it's there on the ground or mark something. But on a professional level, I don't know how you could do that because you have umpires and it's official. So I think I'm getting rid of the glove. And honestly, I think that makes the game. That's a fun game to watch. Now I think middle infielders and catchers are only going to last an inning or two.
I forgot. I was even thinking about catchers. You just don't. You're just not there. You're just letting it hit the backstop and you're fielding it.
Yeah. But it's really hard to imagine the major league game happening without bases. And I've seen people catch balls without a glove.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot more offense.
The sport's going to evolve to where it's only these monsters with giant calloused hands are playing. All right, that's the last one. That'll do it for this week's episode of Talking About Birds. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us every week. We'll be back next, or at least me and someone else will, and Ben will be back after that. Thank you to the Patreon members, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. The season is wrapping up, but we'll be here all year. So stick with us. And so until next week, go Cardinals.
Let's go.